we were driving back home from probably my grandparents' house in Abilene, and you're about 30 miles where you're out in the middle of nowhere, and it was dark and we got a flat tire. And so, of course, back then, when I was a kid, you didn't call AAA or anything like that. You just had somebody come. You fixed the tire yourself. You didn't have anybody come to do it, and which was normal. We'd done that before, and I'd seen tires fixed since I was a very little kid. But it was dark. So it was pitch black, and we didn't have a flashlight, and so Mom did not want my dad trying to change the tire in the dark. So she insisted that we leave the headlights on, and then I got out. They had me get out, and I was holding the hubcap. If you remember back in the old days, we had hubcaps. So they're holding a hubcap in front of the headlights so that it was reflecting back there and giving my dad light so that he could see to change the front tire that was flat. And he was hurrying because he was worried about the battery running down. Because back then, the old halogen, or they weren't even halogen, it was just regular old headlamps. They would run the battery down pretty quick. And so Dad was like, let's turn it off and save the battery. And Mom's like, no, you don't, you're gonna hurt yourself or whatever. I can remember them arguing, which they didn't argue very much. So we did it. Dad changed the tire, and then we got back in the car, and sure enough, the car wouldn't start. It was just like click, 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 so dead battery. So now we had a flat tire, fixed that. Now we're stranded with a dead battery, late at night, pitch dark, and there was no cell phones, there was nothing. There was nothing you could do. You got two little kids in the car, and it was not that big of a deal because Dad didn't freak out because he knew that the next person that drove by, it may be a 30-minute wait, it may be a 5-minute wait, however long, on a country farm to market road. But when they came by, we'd flag them down, they'd stop, and they would help us. And one thing my dad always had was he always had booster cables. So in fact, what I remember was Dad always carried two things in the trunk. One was jumper cables, that so if your car battery died, you could start it out, because back then car batteries died all the time. And an air pump. So you had an air pump in case you had a flat tire and you could air it up. Well, the air pump hadn't worked because apparently the hole was too big or whatever. And so we waited, somebody came along, flagged them down, they jumped the car off, we went home, that was the end of the story. What I always remember though was that back then, when something went wrong, people fixed it themselves. They took care of it. So whenever something went wrong, we just took care of stuff. And when somebody needed something, we took care of people, helped people. And what I remember about Dad with the jumper cables and the air pump was that the way Dad looked at it was you never knew when somebody was going to need help, and he always wanted to be prepared to help somebody. And that's just the way we were. You were always prepared. And I look around today, and it's like nobody's prepared to help anybody anymore. Something happens, we call 911, we call the AAA, we call somebody, or we just ignore it and pretend like it's not our responsibility. It's so rare that somebody is out there who's willing to step up and take help. You know, they've even had to pass laws, I think, and I'm not sure, I've heard of a Good Samaritan law that says if somebody is dying and you try to save their life, like you do if you do artificial resuscitation or anything like that, and they die, there's been people that has happened, and then the family filed a suit against the person who was trying to save their life because they died anyway. And they're going like, yeah, well, you broke their ribs or you did this because you're trying to help them. And so basically now, if people are like, somebody's laying there choking to death or dying, I'm not going to help them because if I try to help them and they don't make it, I could get sued. So I'm better off just letting them die. I mean, how screwed up is a culture that we're too afraid to even try to help somebody because the people we try to help, if it doesn't work out, they're going to blame us for trying to help. So there are Good Samaritan laws. I don't know if it's in like federal law or state laws that say basically if you try to help somebody that's in distress and if they were to die anyway or whatever, that you can't be sued for trying to help, which I think is good, but it's sad that there has to be a law for something like that. It's nuts. And to me, that's one of my passions, is I believe that I believe in heroes. I believe that heroes are not born. I believe heroes are made, and I believe that we can be heroes. But it's not automatic. You have to prepare yourself that when somebody has a need, whether it's in your business or whether it's just in your life, if it's in your relationship, if you're a parent, if you're a school teacher, if you're a doctor, or if you're just a normal business person, it doesn't matter. Are you prepared to help people whenever there's need? I think that is what will change the world again. And I think we need more of that. We need more people like my dad who carry an air pump and a jumper cables in the car. You know, we probably don't need those anymore. The tools have changed. But the idea of being prepared whenever somebody has a need to say, I'll do something about it. When something's not working right, I'm going to step up and take responsibility and stop waiting for somebody else to come to the rescue. I think that's just a world where we shove off the responsibility on everybody else, and we all lose. And we shift that, and we start being prepared, and we help, and we serve, and we be the Good Samaritan, then everybody wins. And I think that's what it's all about.